Lee Davis and Gwilym Roberts are the two IPs in a pod, and you are listening to a podcast on intellectual property brought to you by the Chartered Institute of Patent Attorneys.
We're recording, Will. There you go.
So excited. Well done, Lee. Press the button.
I worked out how to press the right button. We probably should explain that we're recording a podcast in person, which is an unusual experience for us.
As you said, except in the pub.
Except when we're in a pub, which unfortunately we're not in.
Look, as I'm jumping ahead, I guess I've already said that we made an early error there. So
yeah, no, that's
bad tactics.
Bad tactic, and terribly rude, given that we've got guests with us in person as well. So
that is exciting.
Yeah. How you been?
I'm very well, thank you. I told you I got something to talk about. Very exciting. New president, change of president. Emotional scenes last night.
Yeah. So this podcast will go out in about a week's time, and Matt will have just a week left of his presidency. And then with Bobby Mukherjee coming in January.
Excellent. Yeah.
And of course, not just a change of president, but a change of perspective, because Matt very much private practice, big private practice focus, as naturally he would have. But I think has worked magnificently across all of SEPA's areas of work.
Yeah.
And Bobby coming in from an industry, in-house perspective. So that'll give us a different focus for next year, which is good.
It's brilliant. We always try and take in-house into account, but it's quite useful to be told what we need to do.
Yeah.
So, very exciting. And farewell to Daniel. I mean, it's just emotional scenes the whole time.
So Daniel drops off of the officer train. Our officers get about 3 years in the gig. Well, apart from you've been an officer forever.
Forever, yeah. I predate I was here before the charter. I'm in the original.
So that's all change at SEPA. And I think that's one of the fascinations about working in a membership association, because you do get this changing of the guard for us annually. I know some people have a longer presidency than that, but for us annually. And it means that my job sort of reinvents itself every year, which is so cool.
Yeah. Definitely. So each president seems to come with this, not an agenda, but kind of a manifesto.
Manifesto, yeah.
And that's good. We need that as well. You need that change.
Yeah.
Everyone should change leadership every year.
Yeah.
Whoever,
absolutely. Countries would be a good one, wouldn't it?
Not a bad idea.
Yeah. Don't get me started. I don't want to get started on
politics.
It's
just politics. It's just about structure.
It's too depressing. Shall we bring our guests on?
Yes.
So you and I were very fortunate to go to Inter back in May.
Yes.
And I think we recorded 8 or 9 podcasts there. Tiring, wasn't it, at times?
It was a bit, yeah.
I think we did 4 or 5 in one day, which was exhausting. Yes. And our colleagues from Inter looked after us magnificently.
They did.
We really appreciate the opportunity to go there and record the podcast. And so we have Dana and Etienne with us today. Who wants to go first? Who wants to introduce themselves first?
You go.
I know, I feel like we're playing rock, scissors, paper for who introduces themselves first. I'm Dana Brown Northcott. I'm the Vice President of Intellectual Property at Amazon.com. Manage the trademarks brands portfolio, public policy from time to time, domain names, internet governance, and the like. It's a mixed bag. I am also privileged to say that I'm the 2024 INTA president, so I'm so glad to hear that you attended our annual meeting. Hope you had a good time.
Great time.
And as you were reflecting on your organization and change in presidency, we've got the same thing. And so here we are on the, 4th, 5th, 6th December. You'll play this a week time. So, you could consider me a lame duck at this point, because we will have a change in president on January 1st.
Oh, you do January 1st as well?
Yes, she's fantastic. Her name is Elizabeth Stewart Bradley, and she is the head of trademarks at Bristol Myers Squibb. Etienne and the like and INTA are going to be in very good hands with her.
That's excellent. So Etienne, introduce yourself. So.
Sure. So firstly, Willem, thanks so much for having us. Etienne Santerfeld, INTA CEO. And I like very much what you said about, being a CEO of a membership association, changing president on a yearly basis, which is, always, an exciting experience. But I like to say that, the CEO of an organization is always the bad student, is the one that remains, in the same position year after year. And the good students are the presidents who are moving on. So this is where we are.
I like to think get away with it again. I can reinvent myself, and no one remembers how bad I really was the previous year.
I've been with Lee as Honorary Secretary for a long time. Lee, you just work. You get the best out of everybody. How's that?
Oh, thank you.
How's that?
It's I don't know if you feel the same, Etienne, but I feel it's a great privilege to be the chief exec of a particularly for professional membership association. And I always describe it to people who, so sometimes people think it's a bit like being chief exec of a corporate, isn't it? And it's not. You're more the guardian, aren't you? You're kind of looking after this organisation for the members, and that's a really sort of privileged place to be, I think.
It is. It is an extremely privileged position to be. And I think it's probably the same that you have here at SEPA, but our members are very passionate about INTA, and we are as staff, myself included. And we take our role very seriously. There's a lot of fun, there's a lot of work, but yeah, you're kind of the guardian of the organization. You want to make sure that it works well, that it continues evolving on a permanent basis.
Yeah.
And what is really a unique experience is the ability of, in my case, of working with, incredible staff, with an incredible board of directors, with officers, and with, an incoming president every year with kind of, a slightly different approach, perspective, ideas, and you learn from everyone. I personally love it.
What have you learned from Dana?
Oh, I think she's been, incredible. I'm not saying that because she's here and she knows it. And I'm going to say to them, it was very interesting because the way we kind of onboard the president is at the beginning of January, we have what we call Interweek, where we bring all our staff into the office because a lot of people are now working remote.
Yeah.
And we have the president and the council who are coming as well, kind of introducing themselves, getting to understand better how we work internally. And it was very interesting this back January. So Dana came in and she had so many questions, but so many great and incredible questions that I thought, that's going to be an interesting year. It's going to be different. She's going to bring a different perspective, but it's really, it's a joy.
And Dana, what was that experience like for you?
I did not pay him to say that. But maybe later I'm
Did
buying
you,
him a pipe.
in the way that we do at SEPA, so we have a vice president for a year, progress to be the president, and then serve another year as the past president. Is that the same sort of arrangement?
Yes, it is. But we also have a longer officer track. So
Okay.
we have a secretary, a treasurer, 2 vice presidents,
Oh, wow.
and then the president. The president is in a non-voting capacity and is able to participate in board meetings for, I think, 2 years, Etienne?
Yep.
Was it 3 years? And then roll off. But more as a advisor to
Okay.
kind of keep things, level, but not as necessarily someone who controls strategy.
So it's more figurehead than leadership, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is also, if I may,
No, please.
what I think is really nice is that with every president, there is a very strong, very solid interaction that has been prepared prior to the presidential year. And then we have weekly meetings. We discuss a lot of things. And we're always thinking, how can we improve the organization? What are we going to be doing? Of course, many people just see at INTA annual meeting, leadership meeting, there is much, much more. I mean, here we're now on a kind of what we call a delegation, and we've done quite a few of those delegations where, we travel together with some key staff, we meet members in different countries, but we also meet a lot of, policymakers,
Yeah.
heads of IP offices. So there is really a bond that is created over time and a lot of trust and a lot of working together.
Cool.
So it's a co-leadership meeting.
Yeah.
Co-leadership, if I may say so.
Where should we start? I'd quite like to talk about the conference. Do you call it a conference, Inter? Is that what it is? Because it's a big old gig, isn't it?
It was your first one and my second.
It was my first one, yeah. Thoroughly enjoyable, hugely exhausting because it's so large. Just to walk round is exhausting, isn't it? How did you put that together? How much work goes into that?
Well, it's a lot of work. We're extremely fortunate to have a very professional team that is looking into the kind of operational side of things, but also, putting the right content so that it's meaningful to the members. And yeah, I mean, so you said your first one was
my
this
first
year,
one, yeah.
Okay, was Atlanta? Which was your first one?
I went to Barcelona a few
Okay,
years ago.
2017.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
So it's about 10 to 12,000 attendees from all around the world. So it's a massive event.
It's like a lower league football game, but for a week.
Depend which team you are. But yeah, it's we kind of we start planning the annual meeting in terms of the venue at least 3 to 5 years in advance, because you need to find the right spot, and there are a lot of issues that need to be looked at. And then in terms of the programming for the meeting, it's about, I would say, between 14 to 18 months preparatory work. So it's a lot of work. So by the time, we get there, we're all already exhausted, but very excited about it.
And already doing the next one as well. So
Immediately.
Next 3 to 5.
permanently planning. And we have an annual conference, and so ours is largely driven by volunteers. So it's our members that drive the content. Clearly, we have a staff team who look after the logistics and everything. But yeah, so it's a year in the planning. We deliver the conference, and the next day they're thinking about next year's. It's
absolutely
permanent job.
the same, really truly the same. And we take the learnings from before, and then we move on. Something that I really like about annual meeting is that there's something for everyone. Really, truly, you're either connecting with your in-house folks, you're meeting outside counsel that you want to hire in a particular jurisdiction or work through an issue. The content is very rich and at every level. And so, entry trademark attorneys can come and learn something new. Those who've been practicing for a long time can have a different strategic conversation about what they've learned in their practice. And so it is not, it's not all parties. It's a lot of learning, it's a lot of CLE, it's a lot of making connections, and as a result, it makes everything better. But Lee, to your point, we are a member-driven organization, and so the needs and what it is that we're hoping to achieve coming out of the conference is member-driven, bottoms up.
How many members you have?
How many members? About 6,500 organizations. So, it's companies and firms. And I would say we have about 30 to 35,000 individuals who are somehow involved in the activities of the association.
Through those company affiliations.
Through those either company or firm affiliations. And then we're very much committee driven. So we have about 120 between committees and subcommittees. Now, not every individual gets into a committee. We have about 4,500 individuals who are on committees. Some are more active than others. So that's basically, the membership of INTA. I mean, here in the UK, we have about 260 firms. We have, if I remember correctly, 57 corporations that are members. And I would say the UK practitioners are very active within INTA.
Are you going to see all of those while you're here?
We'd have to stay many, many months in order to do that.
Yeah, my firm sent, I think, all of our trademark partners are in New Orleans recently.
We had our leadership meeting in New Orleans.
We take it super seriously. So I'm a patent attorney.
Okay.
So there's no P in inter. But I think it's true. I think that it's becoming the IP hub. Not only the organisation, we can get to that, but certainly that meeting is becoming potentially not just the trademark hub meeting, but possibly the IP hub meeting. Because certainly, I'm going on the right tracks because in fact, you're in Atlanta. I basically reached out to my US clients and said, I could come and visit you, or we can meet at Inter. And they said, we'll come to Atlanta. And suddenly, I had all my meetings, all my get-togethers in one place, and this is all patent clients basically. Well, but we've got trademark angle, maybe.
But no, you're absolutely right, Willem. There is no D in Inter, but we do designs. There is no C in Inter, but we do copyrights. There is no D, but we do data privacy. So
do you need some branding advice?
I think INTA has been evolving over time, and that was a kind of I think it was a good decision, and it was a smart move from the board of directors. And the idea was we need to look at IP more from a more kind of holistic approach and really looking at all kind of IP rights. It's true that, not really into patents, but even today, you need to look at all IP rights somehow with some level of connection. And to your point, yes, there are quite a few patent attorneys that come to our annual meeting, to the point that little by little, we've been adding some sessions that are not necessarily purely patent related, but have some connections with patents, and they're well attended. We have a patent reception at INTA annual meeting already for years, and I've seen 400 or 500, patent attorneys at that reception. So yes, that's a fact. That's happening.
Next question we can cut if you don't like it. But so, who are your competitors on the patent side in terms of providing that global hub?
So we don't look at anyone as a competitor.
Oh,
that's a starting point, and I'm not trying to be politically correct. I think we truly believe that we all need to work together because it's all about IP and it's all about promoting IP. I think, the beauty of, what we have today is that each organization has kind of its niche. For example, if we look at global IP organizations, I would immediately think about AIPPI.
Yeah.
They're great. They're perhaps a little more academic than what INTA is. That doesn't mean that INTA is not doing a very strong, solid academic work, but we're an association of brand owners, and that remains kind of the focus of INTA. So this is where, there is a nuance. And then, of course, you have more regional organizations, you have more global organizations, you have national organizations. What we like to do is really to interact with all of those as much as possible. We might not be always aligned on everything, but at least the bottom line should be the same.
If I can pile on to that, and this is something that Etienne emphasizes a lot, but as a professional brand owner association, the role of an IP professional is not siloed, not necessarily anymore. And so it's important to think of ourselves as not a 4-letter acronym, but I don't know, Etienne, how many other letters you listed out? You said that, William, you said we needed a longer acronym. It's true.
I've got PINDACT.
How is that? Tell me about it.
We need some help with rebranding, but we are more because the role of the IP professional is changing and needs to do more.
Yeah. So any exciting news about where we might find the inter-annual meeting in the future? Is there anything you could share with us? Breaking news or anything like that?
2026.
I don't remember. It's no. The only thing I can tell you is we, and this is public, we're planning to go to Dubai. I think for good reasons. We decided to move that meeting to 2029. Still committed to go to Dubai because the region is booming.
Yeah.
From an IP perspective, and it's extremely important. But it was probably better for all our members to kind of, wait a little more and delay that. That, of course, has opened a spot for 2026. There are many options still on the table. Heard many of them, like you probably have, because this is why you're asking that question. What I would say as well is, any of those venues and any venue we pick is normally, a great city to INTA, is a great host. But there are a lot of parameters that we need to consider. And one of the important parameters is to get, a sufficiently big hotel block.
Yeah.
That is, that can accommodate, our community. Now, when members are trying to guess that in advance and are trying and are putting the names out there, that is making our life more difficult to sign those contracts, and that's basically is increasing the price of the hotel rooms. So it goes against the interest of the members.
Yep.
Now, it's very difficult for me to explain to every individual who's asking me what should be, but trust us, it will be, a great venue. What we do as well, and that's again, something that was agreed by the board, is that every third year we're bringing our annual meeting outside North America. And that's something that we're keeping as a kind of rule because we think it's a great opportunity to interact with, potential new members, with new constituencies. We were in Singapore. We perhaps lost some of, Europeans or North Americans in terms of attendance, but instead we had, quite a few new attendees from Asia, and that's always interesting. As any organization, we need to think about, growth and, what's the future about.
So what are you predicting, Lee? I'm going, based on everything you've said.
I would like to do predictions. Etienne, just explain to us that
everything I'm hearing is pointing towards Abergavenny. That's what I'm picking up.
That's
here.
easy.
I don't want to move the hotel market in Abergavenny, but a heads up.
It's 3-bed and breakfast, isn't it?
Yeah. You'll be cramming a lot of people into the bedrooms in Abergavenny if that happens. Anyway.
Well, don't book that flight now. In the meantime,
I don't think it's got an airport.
Abergavenny International.
That's right. Focus on San Diego. Book your flight for San Diego. It's always a fantastic conference. San Diego has so much to offer, and it also has really great attendance. So you'll see the majority of your clients there.
So Inter's more than an annual meeting, though, isn't it? So what else is on your radar? What other exciting things are you doing?
Oh, so many exciting things. Yeah, for the listeners, Etienne just pointed to me and I gave a big smile of like, where is it that we start? Well, let's go back to a little bit of what Etienne was saying. Throughout the year, the presidents and board members, Etienne and Heather Steinmeier, who's the director of policy for INTA. We have a number of delegations. And so in that, we're interacting with officials that are in certain countries, as well as our members, and forming different relationships with those folks who are all interested in working towards IP. This year, I've had the privilege of going to, let's see if I can check my passport, Indonesia, Japan, France, I did go to Spain, Brussels, Brazil, India.
Yep.
Help me, Etienne. Now it's all going bonkers.
London.
We were just in Germany.
You were in
And
Germany.
there was some
London.
wild
London, of
hand
course.
waving of here we are in the UK. This is my last delegation, and so we're saving the best for last. But that
of
has
course.
been that has been truly a big focus of the year, is our policy engagement, which is wonderful. Back to being a member-driven organization, the committees are meeting monthly. The work doesn't only happen at the annual meeting or leadership. All of those folks are bringing up issues, working on projects, and then we have 4 board meetings a year where we're getting the board buy-in and
How big's
focus
the
on
board?
strategy and
How many members?
36 members.
Okay.
2/3 are corporate members and 1/3 are what we call associates, so external counsels. And we have a very global composition of the board, so we make sure to have representatives from North America, Europe, Africa, Middle East, Asia, Latin America, all around the world.
That's very exciting. So you mentioned you going around and actually there's policy as part of your role to go out there and
Absolutely.
get policy across. And I'm so relieved to hear that it's kind of a global policy, because I think that's what the world definitely needs at the moment, is kind of non-partisan, what's in the best interests of brand owners and people, and the IP system. But you need a global view on that,
Yeah.
because if it's national,
Yeah.
then there's national interests. to
Well,
take in.
we take a lot of pride in really defending global positions, and I always say we never take the position of one single company, one single industry sector, or one single country, and we pay a lot of attention to that. And in fact, a lot of people talk about the annual meeting and and people having fun, etc. As Dana was saying, there is a lot of very serious work that is done by the committees throughout the year. Those committees put together recommendations, position papers, resolutions. Proposal from a committee then is kind of checked by other committees that are kind of relevant to the subject matter. It goes to the group for approval. It then goes to the executive committee for discussion, and it finally goes to the board for approval. And if the board is not comfortable with that, the resolution goes back
Goes back
down,
again, yeah.
and you need to rework this, and that. So every time INTA is taking a position, it's a very solid one.
Yeah.
Now, we do, in terms of policy matters, and I'm going to perhaps focus a little more on trademarks now, but I could talk about designs, I could talk about copyrights, I could talk about, many other IP rights. Of course, we look at many issues first. We continue defending international harmonization, which is absolutely critical. So that's number one. And harmonization is not just about the treaties. It goes far beyond that. We, of course, internet governance is a big issue, and, really defending IP interests when it comes to internet. I think it's very important. Of course, we look into enforcement and counterfeiting issues. We're also very much concerned by brand restrictions, and we're more and more concerned about, for example, trade wars and how is that going to be affecting IP. Yeah. We look at, the impact of technology on IP. Now we're working on a position on AI. There are 15 INTA committees that are working on that position. So, there's a lot of work that is being done, and a lot of reports that are being produced by INTA. And then, when we go on those delegations, it's precisely to kind of, share that kind of, knowledge and those kind of positions. And we think it's very helpful to the members, and it's really defending the IP industry.
Why don't you talk a little bit more about the position papers that we have before, because I think that would be really interesting to your users.
Yeah.
IP in space.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, write that one down.
Yeah. So let's say, on the one side, we're looking at position papers and resolutions on the more kind of traditional legal stuff, but we also like to look at ourselves as a forward-thinking organization that is thinking a little out of the box, understanding as well how the profession is evolving, how the industry is evolving. So we put together, for instance, a set of think tanks which were looking at what's the role of the in-house department of the future. what's the role of the IP law firm of the future, and what should be the role of the IP office of the future. This is something that we did about 4 years ago. There's been additional iterations for some of those, particularly the one of the IP office of the future. But at the same time we do that, we also like to look at, for example, impact of technology on IP.
Yeah.
So, we did kind of, a set of position papers on metaverse and IP, NFTs and IP. And then we did something that was a little more a crazy idea, which was about, IP protection in the outer space. And the idea was very simple. We're seeing more and more kind of commercial missions going to the moon and trying to reach Mars. We know that there is already something about patents, but only covering, the International Space Station with some kind of very basic rules. But there is nothing else about other IP rights. So we put together a group of about 12 to 14 experts from all around the world, some INTA members, some non-INTA members, some, of course, IP professionals, some non-IP professionals, and we asked them to brainstorm and come with a set of recommendations. And so we published a paper that then we hand over to WIPO, saying that's something that you might want to consider for the future. Just one example.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because it's sort of trademark the moon, or...
I mean, if you fly to the moon now and open up a McDonald's, you probably don't have to get a license from McDonald's, I guess.
Why don't you read the paper first?
I'll tell you what,
that's the answer.
right.
That's
the
the
answer.
answer.
that is a really interesting topic, and but if I can, I'm glad you're also doing the internet, because you know how we know more about outer space than we do our own ocean.
Yeah.
I think we also know more about outer space than we do about the internet. I'm really pleased to hear that you're looking at internet governance, because that we need to get long before we sort out space, which is really important, don't get me wrong, but I think the internet is absolute Wild West, completely out of control. There's different levels of that, but I'm interested to know what are the hot topics in the internet governance side of things.
We really couldn't agree with you more.
Oh gosh, yeah, Amazon's here. Sorry, here we go.
Aside,
Yeah.
Amazon to the other side, but as INTA members, we really couldn't agree with you more. We have long been involved in ICANN and other internet governance forums, but ICANN is certainly an important one, and one where we need more openness and transparency and predictability for sure. But as you probably know, but I'll just help a little bit for some of your users who might not know, the International Corporation of Assigned Names and Numbers is a member-driven bottom-up organization, also a nonprofit, that has a number of constituencies. An intellectual property constituency. Every government, including the UK government, has a advisor. There are registrars, registries, other nonprofits, other academics. So everybody is exchanging ideas, but with a very different view. And so it's critical that we're part of that conversation. So as we talk about, domain name abuse, as we talk about, anti-counterfeiting on the internet, we're there representing the rights of IP professionals, saying these are the things that are concerning to us, and that in turn, helps inform the academics, it helps inform the different governments of what the priorities of business are.
Quite an interesting insight on that. When I was travelling in Asia, I went to an Asian country, and I need to get a visa, and they said you can get a visa online. So I typed in country visa, and I got 5 different websites, each saying that they were the official website. And I remember thinking, gosh, that's what the trademark system started at, wasn't it? It was an indication of origin. And the internet hasn't got it. You just don't really know who you're talking to. So that seems to be such a fundamental problem with the internet at the moment that I don't know how to solve it, by the way. I'm assuming that's significantly on your radar, but I don't know.
Well, if you can solve it, certainly let us know.
Okay.
We can use your guidance, but we also need a lot more dialogue there, and so I'd encourage everybody listening to certainly get involved and share your views about how IP should exist on the internet.
I've got more.
Oh, you keep going. I'm just looking at our... I know we can't do comparative notes online. It's very difficult on the podcast.
I'm loving this. So just on getting that policy together with a whole bunch of different countries, and I think that's great. It's going to pull out it's going to remove so many kind of outlying national interests that don't really help an international debate. Conversely, you've got so many voices, and we have this in a very small way with SEPA as well. You've got different points of view, and you're trying to come up with a policy position. Do you end up with your very neutral positions in the end? Are you able to take strong stances, or is there always a voice somewhere that pushes you back away from being too adventurous?
I think we do. It's not always easy. Finding compromises is always a complex issue. Sometimes we upset a little some of our constituencies, which is not ideal. But it's one day it's going to be for you, the other day it's going to be for me. I think we need to be very respectful of all our different constituencies and all our different industry interests. And we can probably continue doing a better job listening to all and making sure that all are part of the conversation, which is already the case. But sometimes there's been some kind of positions that have been a little more controversial internally than others. That happens.
I think the word that Etienne just said there that's super important to underline is conversation. There's very rich dialogue, and there are a lot of very smart people who are focused in every committee on bringing forward what's best for IP owners overall instead of just their particular position.
Yeah.
And so it's that, it's the deep conversation, it's the deep focus, it's the deep listing that I think overall gets INTA resolutions to the right result.
Yeah.
Probably gets you listened to globally as well, because everyone knows you're trying to come to the right result.
That's right.
And in fact, I would add to what Dana just mentioned. This is what gives us so much credibility globally with policymakers and with governments, because they can perfectly see that, on occasions in a given country, we're not taking the position that the local practitioners might be defending. So, it's not that we're kind of, self-defending our industry, the IP industry. We're really looking at promoting IP to protect the brand owners, the owners of the IP rights, but to equally protect the consumers.
Yeah, so that's something we tried to do here. So we've in recent years we've had to, we don't tend to use the word lobbying, but kind of campaign on a number of issues. And actually, you have a more authentic voice if you're not talking about your members as practitioners, but using your members' voices to talk about the broader world.
Yeah.
So what does this mean for society? What does this mean for the economy? What does this mean for business? Rather than what does this mean for vested interest?
Yeah. But I think, Lee, on that one, I think what is really important, we all kind of have some kind of, legal background, or we've been practitioners, or we're practitioners, but, we need to think and speak the language of the industry. And we need to talk about economy, we need to talk about growth, we need to talk about jobs, we need to talk about welfare, we need to talk about innovation. And IP is critical to innovation. Yeah. And that is really what resonates.
Yeah.
Actually, touching on your kind of the consumer, the public angle, so you talk about, you've got counterfeiting as another of your big platforms, very important, of course. Yeah. Out of interest, is that more of a consumer protection angle? Is that a brand owner protection angle? Or do they become the same thing?
It's both. It's both. Yeah, it's both. I mean, it's consumer protection for sure, but, counterfeiting is also, defending the interest of the companies. But the companies are the first ones that want their consumers to feel safe and comfortable. So, that's why, it's both.
We had that podcast recently about the seat, the baby seat.
Yeah.
And they've had huge counterfeiting issues, and it's just there's no depth to which the counterfeiters won't sing. So that's important.
And for me, the lesson in that podcast, this was a lady that went on to create a really novel approach to identifying counterfeiting and tackling it. So having experienced it in her own business, she then looked at sort of strategies for tackling it online. But it was, I'm sure she won't mind me saying this, it wasn't an obvious, it was a baby chair. It was a way of securing a baby into a chair if you haven't got a high chair. Yeah, it's not the most obvious thing that you would counterfeit, and that's what I find extraordinary about counterfeiting is everything seems to be fair game now.
But I mean, listen, you're patent people. What's the value of a patent if the product can be counterfeited?
Yeah.
And we see that as IP professionals, but it's not just about IP professionals, it's about innovation. It's about research and development, it's about jobs, it's about the economy.
For me, last one.
Yeah.
Which is actually, so Dana, reflections on your year, achievements, things you wish you could have got done, jobs for Elizabeth?
God, there's so many jobs.
Job for Elizabeth.
So many jobs for Elizabeth. I'm making a long list. I should stop asking questions of the organization, because then I make a different list of priorities. Reflections on the year. How much time do you have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But technically, we've got about 5-6 minutes.
Okay, all right.
And I'm going to
won't
be
use them
taking
all.
notes, by the way.
I know, I won't use
Starting
them
with how
all.
great Etienne is, obviously.
It is, yes. Etienne is extraordinary. I think that few people see how strategic he is, how much of a political operator, how he understands the global economy, how it all fits together, and why this matters to brand professionals and consumers. And so the organization is very, very lucky to have him. And again, he did not pay me to say that. But
You're a great double act, mate.
folks
We'll
should,
still have a
should
beer
really,
afterwards.
that's right. Folks should really, truly understand that the organization is in good hands as a result of Etienne's leadership. Other reflections on the year, there's so much work to do, you know, on behalf of IP professionals, that I think we're only just cracking the surface. And if we think about fit for purpose 3 to 5 to 7 years on, there's a lot of forward thinking that needs to be done, and I think that INTA is leading the way. You know, we highlighted IP in space. We're thinking about novel IP rights. There's much more to be done. But something else that has really surprised me is the depth of commitment amongst our members that we've been meeting along the way. I just, you know, gave a list of the countries that I've been to. I wasn't able to go everywhere this year. We all split things up. Etienne has been to China, you know, 2 or 3 times. So we really, truly cover the world. And I was struck on our visit to India in October at the involvement at the committee level by so many folks in that country. The weight of that, the commitment of that is really extraordinary. And so that's something that has stuck with me. There's so much more than what you see at an annual meeting.
Can I just sort of develop Willem's question a wee bit? One of the things that we've tried to do in CEPA, and we've been successful in doing, historically, if you look back at the past, the presidency was seen as something that perhaps one would take on towards the end of a career. So it's moving towards retirement, or in the earliest sort of years of retirement, you're a CEPA president when you can be the kind of the leader, the figurehead, and that kind of thing. In recent years, certainly in my time here, we've tried to move it towards something that people can do whilst they are still working, and I'm conscious that you've done that. So you've had your time as a working president. How have you found that, the balance? Because you've still had a day job to do, yeah?
I really don't like the word balance because it implies that
What's
there's
totally balanced?
equivalency, you know, all the way across the board.
Balance
Yeah.
doesn't always mean that you get it right.
Balance is a little bit more harmony, like an opera. You hear some more trumpet, sometimes you hear more guitar. Well, you know, interests are very aligned. I've been at Amazon for 17 years. I've been an INTA member for 24. It is my INTA involvement, what I've learned at INTA, that has helped, you know, shape the IP strategy of our company. And I look to INTA to help train some of our early team members on, you know, how is it that the law actually works internationally and why. And so this has been great for us because it's, you know, opened our eyes a little bit more to what is going on globally, that's for sure. But in terms of the, you know, the harmony or the balance, a lot of the interests are most certainly aligned, and then you fill the cracks where you can.
Yeah.
And hopefully, you know, take that long-term focus of what's the 3-year plan, work backwards from that to mechanize that. And that helps you remain organized in both places. But I will say that I've not done it incredibly elegantly.
I'll speak out of turn because I shouldn't speak for my sort of current and past presidents, and actually Gwilym will have a perspective on this as well. What I've seen in CEPA presidents who are also working is that in their day jobs they've also become more strategic. So that they've been able to take from the presidency this exposure on a kind of a national and international scale and take that back into the day job. And I'm pretty sure most of them have become more strategic in their thinking, kind of
And more
statesperson.
statesperson-like.
Yeah. Is that something you've found? Is it enhanced your job?
You're very statesperson.
I think
like
we'll
we
see.
think.
No, ask me again in a year or two, and then we'll see. But you know, to your initial point is traditionally we saw people at the end of their career. Hopefully, I'm just getting going. There's so much more work to do.
There was nothing hidden in my question.
I don't think so. I don't think
If
so.
I may, you know, and witnessing quite a few presidents, you know, by now, I think, you know, and talking about you this past year, you know, Dana has been an extremely engaged president. And this is what we need as an organization, that I enjoy as a CEO, because, you know, you need presidents who challenge you.
Yeah.
You need presidents that give you ideas, that, you know, provide you feedback, that care about the organization. And this is, you know, the beauty of, you know, INTA presidents. They really care about the organization. They care about the members. It's all in good faith, and it's how can we do better? And this is really highly motivational for all staff, myself included.
We all learn from each other, so remarkably so. I talked earlier about the officer track being about 5 years.
Yeah.
And so you really work with, the past presidents
That's
from
really
5 years, and now we're working with who's coming for the next 5, and that gives a lot of consistency to the organization, but also a lot of good, deep conversation about where should we go and why should we go there.
And how do you get that? So one of our challenges always is to rejuvenate. So we have a council, not a board, but it's a sort of a similar governance organ in that sense. For me, one of the challenges is for that to renew itself. So perhaps for people to realise it's time to move on and to encourage other people to come in. How do you get that right? How do you get that movement?
At INTA, it's an extremely well-oiled machinery. So, we were mentioning before that the board is composed of 36 directors, 2/3 are corporates and 1/3 are firms. Then what happens is that 1/3 of the board is rotating every year because the board term is 3 years. So, there is a permanent kind of, evolution.
And on those 3 years, they have to drop off, or they could restand? Or
No, so after 3 years, they drop off.
They drop off.
They drop off. And then, the officers, as Dana was saying, are on a kind of longer track. But there is a good reason for that, because you need to get prepared to become president of the association. But it works very well. Committee level, it's the same. The committee term is 2 years. And you're a committee member, you're kind of, identified as a potential leader, you become potentially a subcommittee leader, then you become a committee vice chair, and then you become a committee chair. And after doing that is when perhaps you're being identified by the nominating committee as a potential candidate to sit on the board one day. And so that's the way it's working. It's quite well organized.
So I'm conscious of time, but I know that one of my jobs is to be timekeeper, isn't it? And it's much easier when you're in the same space. It's so much easier to control the time. We've asked you lots of questions. Are you sat there thinking, "Oh, thank God they didn't ask us that one"? Is there anything? Is there anything you want to give us?
We're not hiding anything, so you can ask whatever you want. No worries. I mean, you asked me about annual meeting.
Yeah.
What else?
I did have one more question in that case, which is Etienne, you've worked with lots of presidents. Who's your favourite?
No, that's good to put him on the spot. Elizabeth is his favourite. January 1st, he's walking into a great year.
No, I would say it's it's a real pleasure. But like you said, Lee, having a kind of new president every year is a great experience. But more importantly, the ability of working with the officers and with the incoming presidents for a set of years is absolutely delightful.
We have the best job in the world, don't we?
We have a very nice job. I don't know whether it's the best in the world, but it's a great job. And what is really nice, and I suppose it happens as well with you guys, but we become real friends. I mean, there's a lot of, we spend a lot of time together, we go on delegations, we work on difficult issues, so there is really, a personal connection that happens, and that's kind of unique.
Exactly this idea.
We love to say that INTA is a big family, and it truly is a big family.
So we're coming towards the end, okay, and you're not going to give us any more. We've worked out that there's no great giveaway that's coming. So Gwilym and I do this thing, always easier to do when we're on Zoom, because we can, in the chat bar, we can drop one other suggestions and things. We quite like ending on a bit of a tangential question that maybe isn't too related to what's been going on in the conversation itself, but there's a little bit of a connection. I've got one, Gwilym. I don't know if it's going to work, so let's play mine out. And if you've got anything better, we can do that one as well. Okay, let's do mine first. Please. So I've been transfixed by Etienne's cufflinks. Okay.
Well, from this angle, I couldn't work them out.
So for the listeners, it's a kind of pair of yellow ducks, much like the ducks that I've got in my bath at home. So the way this works is I ask Gwilym, we'll ask you the same question, and then Gwilym will throw it back at me. What's your most unusual item of clothing that you occasionally wear?
Oh, I've actually got a really cool leather jacket that I bought, ironically, about 15 years ago for a fancy dress party. And it's a 1970s brown leather jacket, massive lapels, big buttons on it. It's German, it's got Echte Leder written inside. I don't know where it came from.
Germany.
It was and a cow. Yes, right. We've kind of narrowed it down anyway. But and I got it at a vintage shop, and I wore it ironically to this party, the 70s party. And now it's the trendiest piece of clothing I've got, and I can't wear it because my kids keep pinching it. So that's my esoteric piece of clothing. I know you're going to have something horrible, so but we'll come to you later.
So Etienne, other than your sort of sparkling choice in cufflinks, and I imagine you've got a variety of cufflinks. I imagine
I do.
I'm guessing it's your thing. Anything else you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, well, I mean, those kind of ducks, they're my daughter's favorite ones. So,
Cool.
she's always telling me, Dad, take them with you.
Oh.
And I like that. I like to be a little I'm a very classical person, but I like to have a little touch of, provocation. Today I forgot my pink fountain pen, but normally I'm having a very flashy pink fountain pen. And now I've become a little more boring over time, but in the past, I used to really like wearing pink trousers, orange trousers, light green, always with then grey or blue, so that kind of little contrast.
Oh, I can see where your question's going.
Well, you were talking about your leather jacket. I was immediately thinking about my ugly Christmas sweater collection.
Oh, collection.
I do collection. I do know that you also have ugly Christmas sweater parties
We
here
do.
in the UK, but my collection is building. And so for that, everybody should be worried.
What's your crown jewel ugly?
Oh, I have a fantastic green one with a Christmas tree on it, where the Christmas ornaments light up.
Oh.
That's very good.
Oh,
Make
cool.
you quite dizzy. It's nice.
Lead. Can we not do shoes, or is it going to be shoes?
No, it's not going to be shoes.
Oh, excellent.
actually.
Okay.
So-
Just so you know, Lee's shoes. Oh my golly gosh.
Yeah, I have quite a line of outrageous shoes. Which
Okay.
usually they come out.
You haven't been fired by SEPA for
No. Well,
Again, like you, it's kind of part of the.
it's taken them a long time to get used to it, but now it's expected at conferences.
Ah,
and
okay.
congress and things.
So
there's-
it's kind
there's-
of,
Plus walk-on music. Honestly,
I always come on to walk-on
personality
music.
cult.
But the other thing, so when I was getting into the sort of what does it mean to be a chief exec, so this was in job before SEPA, I did a little bit of coaching with a lady, and she was brilliant. And she said, as a chief exec, particularly if you do public speaking, I do a fair bit of it, you need a point of difference. So you get it with your trousers and your cufflinks. So mine is not perhaps close, but it's my stick. Okay, so I carry a very long stick.
Okay.
You've seen my
seen
stick.
this.
I carve them. I make them myself. So carve a spiral
Oh,
up
I
it.
didn't know that.
My current one's got an old mascot off of one of my first Jags, so it's got a Jag on top. But I say my current one, it was stolen at the IP Paralegal conference.
Oh.
We left to go out for dinner, and it was put in the sort of like storage area where all the stuff was coming back to SEPA. When we got back, someone had taken it.
I'm
And it was my pride and joy.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That is quite sad. I mean, somebody loved your stick.
Yeah, I'll make another one. And I keep looking on eBay because it's so obviously mine that if it appears on eBay, I'll recognise it. And it's just search for Jaguar walking stick. But I've not yet seen it. Yeah, so it's back in October.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Do you want to do your question or?
No, we're good.
We're good. Okay. Then. Oh, thank you both so much for
No
coming
problem.
in and sharing your time with us. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. We like
Very
these
much so.
these things to be enjoyable. How much more time have you got in the UK?
till, Sunday for me, and I think for you as well.
Sunday for me as well. Yeah.
And then back home. Yeah, that's
Back
the tour is finished. Back home for Christmas.
You've got time for a pint now.
Unfortunately not, we would love to, but
Oh,
we
no.
have to meet corporate members, so we are kind of back to back. But you know what? We'll do that in San Diego.
Right, do it San
Rain
Diego.
check. Rain check. Actually, not a rain check for San Diego, but a sun
Sun
check
check.
for
Sun
San
check.
Diego. I know
Yeah.
for sure, but
So
we'll take you up on it.
That's a wrap. All we need to say is if you've listened to the podcast and you've enjoyed it in the way that we enjoyed making them, leave us a little review on the podcasting platform of your choice, and that will mean even more people will find it. And we very much hope that you'll take the podcast back with you and share it in the inter community.
Absolutely. We'll do that.
Fabulous.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you for the invitation.